Hi there, and welcome to PodRocket, a web development podcast brought to you by LogRocket. My name is Paul, and today I'm joined with the one and only Jack Herrington, and we're going to talk about TanStack AI, which is a big thing.
Yes, it is a big thing. Our big foray into applied AI. So if you have an application and you want to have some sort of AI functionality in there, then you've got a couple of different options, but I think the best one currently is TanStack AI. Do you want to start off with what TanStack is? I mean, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I think that might be a good base to start with. I also want to make sure people listening who don't know you, like Jack has been involved with TanStack forever.
Well, just actually for the last 2 years. Whoa, year and a half, 2 years, something like that.
Yeah, it adds up, right?
Yeah, it really does.
It adds up quickly.
Yeah.
And I'll just say my only understanding of TanStack AI is what TanStack always gives me, which is the antidote to whatever Vercel's doing. There's the Vercel version and there's the TanStack version. So I'm like, okay, it's like Vercel AI, but it's the one I'm going to use because it's like the TanStack AI.
That's actually the case in a bunch of cases. They've got SWR, and we've got the legendary React query, which is on 30% of all React apps. They've got Next.js, and we've got TanStack Start, which is a fantastic framework for building out your full stack web apps that supports all of the functionality you'd want, including but not limited to React server components, server functions, the whole thing. And then they have the AI SDK, and we have our TanStack AI. And I think that's important from just the positioning standpoint of Vercel. They sell you services, right? They sell you a way to host your Next.js application, and they also sell you an AI gateway, right? So they are incentivized to have made the default for AI SDK to use their AI gateway so that you pay them and then they pay Anthropic or whatever. We don't have a dog in that fight. We are a true neutral party. We support all the different AI vendors. So let me just talk about what the AI SDK is or what AI SDKs do. And then we can talk about like more of the specifics. But getting AI like a chatbot into your application probably seems like an easy thing to do, but there's a lot of nuance to it. So when you connect and make a query of an AI, like an LLM, large language model, you get back this stream of tokens. You don't get back like the chat message per se. You actually have to do a lot of work of like figuring out, okay, is this token part of the message or is this part of a tool call or all this sort of stuff? And there's a lot of little nuances and complexities about the way that tool calls are done, whether they're done on the client or on the server, how to send the results back, how to do approvals, all this kind of stuff. And so we handle all of that. You basically connect us to whatever your LLM is. It could be Anthropic, it could be OpenAI, it can be Ollama, it can be whatever you want, or just an OpenAI standard LLM, and there's a lot of those too. And then we'll go and do all of the work of converting that to a format called AGUI, which is like a standardized format for these messages. And then we'll do all the work on the front end to put it all together into a coherent stream. And we do that headlessly. And then you can go and format that however you want in your application and make it look really good. But you really just have to deal with the application logic, and we deal with all of the hoopla of getting that done. And then, of course, on top of that, we do stuff like text-to-speech, speech-to-text, real-time. You know, we pretty much got the whole gamut covered.
I think a lot of people listening probably would have tried the Vercel AI at some point, and so they're going to listen to us talk about it. And as a listener, my first thing would be, what is like one poster child thing that the TanStack AI does that maybe I struggled with on the Vercel AI SDK side? And I know like the model message, LLM message mapping thing has always been a little bit difficult, but I'm wondering if there's like other things you guys have focused on and tried to put a stake in the ground to just make the software and the DevX better.
Interesting. As all things are TanStack-wise, we're huge on TypeScript. So we spent a lot of time on the typing of models, the typing of their options and all of that. We're completely up to date when it comes to you pick OpenAI model XX, NNN, whatever, and then we'll tell you here are all the parameters for it. And if there are enums or whatever, we'll handle all that for you. So that's one big thing that we've done. Another thing is type-safe tool calls. So when you do your tool calling stuff and you get back the data from the tool call and you want to format it, That's all type safe. That's one of the core tenets of all the TanStack stuff is we're there to solve pain in the butt stuff. It started off with the React table back in the days, handling sorting and filtering and all that stuff, but doing it in a very DX friendly way. And so DX friendliness and also then type safety is a standard across all of the TanStack libraries. I will say that we have other features that they do not at all.
Oh, nice.
The one in particular is code mode. And that is like my personal favorite little feature.
Oh, we got to hear about that one then.
Okay, so there's a regular chat, right? And then there's an agent. The distinguishing thing between a chat and an agent is that an agent has tool calls. So an agent can do things like often want to use one of these tools to read a file or write a file or get the temperature outside. I don't know, there's a billion different ideas for tool calls, right? The problem with a tool call is that it's really inefficient. So what happens is you fire up your request. You say, hey, what is the temperature around here, blah, 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 blah. Actually, that's a classic one. It's like, what's the temperature in Paris or whatever. And there's a get temperature tool, right, that it's supposed to call. How it actually works is you fire off what's the temperature like in Paris, the user query, and then you give it some metadata about all the tools that are available. And then the LLM responds with, hey, I need you to call that function, get temperature, and here are the parameters. And then you do that work locally. And that's how that works. That's how tool calls actually work. They're not done over in OpenAI world. They're done in your world. And then you take the result of that call and you put it back into the chat and then send that back. And that's at the point where it can go and say, oh, well, the temperature in Paris is blah, 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 right? So you're getting all these round trips. And each one of those round trips is you're sending the entire chat transcript. So when you think about compounding interest and the size of all of these requests, the moment that you're sending more and more and more tool calls on a really long conversation, like those context tokens are just bang, 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 adding up. So it's really, really inefficient. So what code mode does is code mode flips the model. It says to the LLM, you've got one tool. That tool is execute TypeScript. And then you can use anything in the TypeScript world, but there's all these injected functions in there, like get temperature or get the product catalog or get this product information or whatever. And then the customer types in like, hey, what's the average price of a shoe or whatever? And then it writes TypeScript to actually go and make those function calls out to those helper functions. But it can do stuff like for loops, async await, promises, all that stuff. So it can do like the entire query and it can customize the query by changing what TypeScript it writes because these LLMs are insanely good at writing TypeScript and then respond really quickly. And so like we've got this sort of side-by-side taste test of using code mode and regular tooling versus like a REST backend. And code mode just absolutely obliterates the REST stuff.
I'm not surprised.
It's not doing all those little tool calls, like going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's just making that one-shot call. And then other cool things about it is self-heals. Because if it writes the wrong code or the code blows up, then that goes back to the LLM. And the LLM says, oh, okay, I guess that didn't work. I'll try something else. And you can see it like go through all these machinations. So you're sort of using the code brain of the mixture of experts. You're using the code expert in conjunction with the kind of logic expert in a really good way and really leveraging these LLMs to their best extent. It's something that Cloudflare initially got into, and you can see it in Anthropic, like you can see it in Claude Desktop. If you ask a question in the background, it's writing code sometimes to like figure this stuff out. But this is like, we've handed it to you now, and it's not bound to Anthropic and it's not bound to Cloudflare. You can use it on any model. We've tested a bunch of different models to tell you which ones are the best ones for it. We're giving all of that coolness to you to try out.
Does this mean we can orchestrate the calling of MCPs with this code in the code environment?
Yeah. Those little functions become injected and those little injected MCP functions. I just did this thing for NX. It's a video, like they've got this virtual conference around the 25th or something. And I did a video on using the NX MCP with code mode and injected those MCPs into code mode.
Mario says the downfall of MCP, at least right now, is it's not composable. That's the difference between CLIs and MCPs. You could pipe into everywhere, and you essentially write a program on the fly. And that's why the CLIs, I've just found way more success. Until, for you Claude Code users out there, Claude Code came out with programmatic tool calling. And I think this happened 3 months ago or 4 months ago. What is it? It's June 2026 right now. So when that came out, I don't know if anybody here noticed, but in your Claude Code, it would write scripts and it would call tools and it would do it in succession with itself. But that was like a Claude Code thing. And everybody was like freaking out. They're like, oh my gosh, this is like crazy. Anthropic changed tool calling forever. So now you're saying, Jack, we can take that feature, that idea, and basically use it with any model. And we can use it in our own apps, in our own agentic runtime using TanStack AI. That's awesome.
Yep. You could use it with an Llama local model. Anything that's good at doing code writing and having some reasoning capability is going to be good with this. And faster the better. We use Haiku for this stuff because it's just wild fast.
And if you get the mixture of experts seasoning on your steak, if you want to think of it that way, Haiku can go a long way if it's pointed at the right scope.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as I say, it's very fast. So if you think about, oh man, it's going to take forever for it to write a TypeScript blob for this, it really cranks that stuff out. The other cool thing about it is it's also really accurate. So the example that we do, like the average cost of a shoe, the reason that we picked that is because there's math involved, right? You got to go in, not high-end math, but it's math, right?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Got to add it all up and divide by the number of items. And every time the LLM with just regular tools gets it confidently wrong. I think the right number is like $137.25. I don't know what a randomly number generated the price of all these shoes, but there is a right number, right? Even with a random generation. And it gets it wrong confidently every time. But of course, code mode, because it's just TypeScript, gets it right every time. And the other cool thing they can do is we actually added on to it. And then we probably named this wrong. Like naming is like the number one rough thing. We called it code mode skills. And the idea is that if code mode decides that this particular piece of TypeScript is worth it, is actually interesting, and is going to be seeing this more than once, it can actually just store that off. And then the next time you ask for the average price of shoes, it goes through its list of skills that it's got and says, oh, I already know how to do this. Okay, pull it off.
Oh, that's cool.
Send it, there you go. And it's, oh my God, so fast. It's crazy good. It's more like an ad hoc system. Like if you got like data, you don't know exactly how you're going to work with it and all that, point code mode at it, and it's beautiful.
Gosh, I just made an agentic system using Vercel AI SDK. And if I'm like thinking now, man, if I could have this little like ephemeral code sandbox to call the MCPs that I wired up.
Yeah.
Dude, this industry moves too fast for me. I can't handle it.
I know, right? It really does. The other thing, we sit on top of multiple execution sandboxes effectively. You can use the Node one. You can use WASM. I think we also have a backend for Cloudflare if you want to run it on a Cloudflare worker.
Nice.
Actually, it'd be great if you tested that out. I haven't done a lot of that myself, but I've tested out the QuickJS one and the Node one, and they work.
I was going to say anything that orchestrates Cloudflare for me, like makes use of a kind of brittle execution environment in my experience. Like it's not brittle because the infrastructure is bad. It's because you got to do things the Cloudflare way for their isolates and how they work.
Yes.
So if there's anything that's like, oh yeah, this like amazing free resource essentially that Cloudflare has for you schleps, like you can go use it now and we make it easy. That's great because I don't want to put my main app on a Cloudflare worker or something, but if I can make a use of workers to build up my infrastructure, that's very appetizing.
Yeah, right?
From a cost and a uptime perspective, yeah.
Do you have some claws running?
I'm a Hermes guy, but yes.
Okay, same deal, right? You could imagine Hermes writing code on the fly for this and then running it in a Cloudflare worker. The trick really is, though, like you got to get access. It's got to be able to call back to you for those functions. Right.
Tunnels. They got tunnels.
Yeah, there you go. Tunnels.
If I walked away with just the knowledge of code mode, I have enough FOMO to feel debased, which means we've done our job on this podcast of touting the features. But there's got to be more, Jack, right? Because you said there's like several cool DevX things you guys are working on. I'm not sure if there's another one that could rival code mode.
I don't know about that.
Okay, or one that's distinctly different from the Vercel suite.
If you listen to Alum, of course, he wants all of that. He's my co-maintainer on this. We are in the process now of going and adding in all of the harness stuff. So yeah, you can get access to Claude Code, Codex, Open Code, Gemini CLI, all in the same manner. And so that's, I think, a big win. We're going and adding some extra stuff onto that. In order to really leverage that, you kind of also have to handle sandboxing as well. So we're handling that as well.
Right.
What was the other? It was just my brain and it just flew away. I recovered it. It's a big one. It's huge, actually. So there's a standard out there called AGUI. So when you talk to an LLM, LLMs talk in these chunks, right? So they send you a chunk that has like a bit of the text coming back or whatever it is. And every different LLM talks a different chunk format. And so what AGUI does is it basically says, okay, here's one format for all of those chunks, except that none of the vendors have really picked up on this. So what we do is all of our adapters talk AGUI, and we committed to this standard. And then that AGUI standard goes all the way up to the client, and then the client processes these AGUI chunks, and that's what turns into your chat messages and all that. Now, the really cool thing is that you could have PHP on the back end. You could have Go on the back end. It doesn't need to be Node, right? But as long as it talks AGUI, you can use our clients. And our clients run the spectrum of React, Vue, all the rest of it. And that's a huge win right there. Oh, and one more. Although I think the AI SDK finally came out with this, maybe in response to us, I don't know. But we've had dev tools on AI for a while, and you can get the whole chat conversation. You can see all the tool calls and all the rest of it. So even if you aren't rendering all the tool calls and all that, you can actually go into your TanStack dev panel and see all of that.
Oh, nice. That's something I've had to build into all the other chats I've built.
Yeah.
Is like a quick copy when you're in dev mode to get an XML printout of the history. I'm just like, I had to build this. Why? For the fifth app time. Like, God.
Yeah. And the cool thing about the TanStack dev tool stuff is that you can actually just snap in your own dev tools. If you've got something like custom to your app, some sort of, I don't know, a store or whatever it is, you can go throw that in there as well. So you can kind of see the whole system.
One reason I keep coming back to TanStack too is just the DevX. That's why I had to ask about the DevX, because that's usually what keeps me in the land of the lazy in TanStack, because it's just so easy to grab like logs in the query inspector in the front end. So that's where I'll find this, right? In the query inspector, in that little like pop-up for the chat.
You will, but it'll be all chunky, right? And so it's going to be gnarly to look at it because it's a stream as opposed to an octet stream, as opposed to a single REST response. It's going to be a bunch of that, which is okay. But at the same time, it's a lot easier if you look in like the dev tooling and see, okay, here's the whole chat transcript. Here was the tool calls. Here's the inputs. Here's the outputs, all that.
Right.
Here's the approvals, all that.
Now, when it comes to Claude, you mentioned being able to like use Claude with the agents because you guys are model agnostic.
That's coming. Yeah.
So Matt Pocock came out with Sandcastle, which is that like agent orchestration. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing. I'm going to be able to like locally on my Mac, make these super powerful Claude Code, Codex agent chains. And then Matt came out with his video detailing his frustration with Anthropic and how they changed the credit billing if you use -P in SDK mode, and it's now like paid over the API. And like I felt that when I go use the API or in credit mode, I'm like, wow, look at those credits leave.
Oh, dude.
Just disappear, right?
Yeah.
And what was it, 48 hours ago or 24 hours ago, they sent the email saying, psych, we're undoing that. We're actually not going to do that. We're actually not going to charge you the API money. Does this change anything with how TanStack and AI is reaching into these model providers? I guess this is more of a question of what you think about that movement by Anthropic. And do you guys have any discretion about like hitting the Anthropic API raw and plain, just as most people would expect, versus using something like a Claude Code as a model provider, as a backend?
Right.
Or if that has any value to you guys?
We definitely support the raw mode. That was the first thing that we came out with, hitting up the LLM at an endpoint space. And there you have to have your API key, right? And now we are adding in the agentic stuff. And it's important. I think that there's real value there because people underestimate the difficulty of creating a harness. You can go and create tools for FS access, read file, write file, we're in this CLI, blah, 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 blah. That ain't a harness, buddy. There's a lot more to it than that. There's a whole bunch of system prompting and sub-agents and all this kind of stuff. And then there's all the kind of world of skills and everything else that Claude Code has added into its whole ecosystem, right? In the alerting and the remote access and all that.
Right.
We don't want to take that away from you if that's the way you want to play. We just want to give you an easy way to integrate that into whatever context you have, whether that's a CLI app or it's a native app, we have native support, or it's a web app or whatever. We're making that easy on you. But we don't want to undo that. In terms of my personal opinion about the whole thing with OpenAI and Anthropic both having this kind of dual billing mode. Like you get, because I've got Max, and then I've also got Anthropic API credits, right? It's a pain, man. I've always thought that was the most asinine thing ever. It really is. It's double dipping. It's just brutal. And I can't not have those because half of what I do depends on Anthropic keys and all that. So it's not like I can avoid having them. So I just have to have it, right? And then if I want to use Claude, the only thing I could get rid of was the OpenAI mega $100 plan, which I was able to get rid of because I don't use ChatGPT in the browser. But I still have to pay for OpenAI credits. I still have to pay for Anthropic credits. That's one of the things my wife looks at the monthly charges. Then half of it is like AI services. It's crazy.
Yeah, same.
That's crazy.
I certainly get questioned. And I'm in the camp of people that when Fable came out, I think I spent 3,000 or 4,000 on API credits and then they took it away. And I'm just like, no, this can all fit into my plan usage now. I don't know why I just did that.
Whoa.
Got to explain that one. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't spend that much. Actually, what's funny was I didn't know that Fable 5 was leaving or whatever. And we had just this chat in the AI channel about, hey, can we do X? And so I just fired it up and I'm like, oh, I guess we'll give Fable 5 a run. And it went through my Max subscription, no problem, you know.
Oh, yeah, like butter.
6 hours later, it was done. But then 8 hours after I started, Fable was gone. So it was like, oh, my timing was absolutely great on that.
Yeah, I was just trying to like run the insights skill to figure out what's wrong with my projects and all my projects. And there's a lot of projects, so it was just eating up all my credits. But anyway, back to TanStack AI.
Yes.
To be clear, Jack, is there some way for TanStack AI to orchestrate and use Claude Code, like the runtime, that harness as a backend, as a provider in some way?
Yes.
Okay, there is.
Not yet.
Not yet, but coming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Literally, like the PR is going to be in the next couple of days and we'll get it out pretty quickly after that.
Amazing. Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like you get to build a harness on a harness.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about this yet, but like a code mode thing plus Claude Code.
Because Claude Code has its own code mode too.
I know. Yeah, right? Yeah. I don't know. That's pretty crazy.
But at least now it won't be a separate build charge.
Yes.
And if we use Claude Code not with an API key, it'll be part of your subscription.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Oh, I see. Like literally just like pumping rando like requests through it. Yeah. Okay. You could. Sure. That's actually one thing. And I don't know if this interests you or not, but we are throwing around this idea of doing like an in-place editor for sites. If you bring up a TanStack, create TanStack app kind of thing. When it pops up, if it's in developer mode and if you've got an Anthropic key lying around, or if we see Claude Code, we'll basically just put up a modeless dialog that's like, hey, you want to just edit in place and allow you to select elements and then say, oh, change this to that and blah, 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 right in the app. Yeah.
That would change so much for me. Are you kidding, Jack?
No, I'm not kidding.
That would change so much because I think my whole life
I'm glad that you like it.
Is building websites and then going to stakeholders and going, here you go. So the less that they come back to me.
Yeah. And if they're like, oh, well, what about this? You're like, okay, here, I'll just bring it up. Boop, 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 boop.
You basically solved my consultancy problem for me if you guys come out with that. So please, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah. And it uses Claude Code, right? We'll have as an option our own little mini harness that will have basic FS stuff, but it won't ever be as good as Claude Code, just running Claude Code in it. Because
and you can do a lot in the WASM container in environment. So.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So is there anything we didn't hit on, Jack, that you think people should know about as it pertains to like specialties with AI SDK or like where you guys are going roadmap wise?
Can't think of any right offhand. I mean, we've been pretty honestly talking about everything we've got in the pipeline, which is great because that's just what TanStack is. TanStack is just like a really fun group of people who really care just about making life better for other developers. And so that just alone has been really fun to work with the people in there. But in terms of like TanStack AI, as I say, like a lot of stuff around the harness stuff and sandboxes, but also some UI stuff. I don't know if he's, I can't. Tanner's working on something and I don't want to I don't want to say that. But,
what about like local orchestration of agents using TanStack AI? And I'm thinking of like Matt Pocock's Sandcastle project where I can just like use TypeScript to string together, hey, call Codex and then call Claude and then do this. And could you see a future where TanStack AI is hybrid, like it's a SaaS offering, or as a builder, I would use it in my SaaS offering, but then I could also use it to build like local workflows somehow. That build up.
We do actually have TanStack Workflow now.
Oh,
it's like the tiny little library that like popped out 3 weeks ago. I don't know if it's gotten a lot of traction yet, but it came out of the AI project, but it's like, this is an orthogonal concern to us. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for it to be specific to AI. So yeah, TanStack Workflow is now its own thing. And in fact, I just did a video on the 17 different TanStack libraries or basically ecosystems. Because TanStack AI is more than just like a single library. It's a whole kind of little collection of little libraries.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 17 of them. And this actually brought all of them into a single app, and it actually remarkably worked quite well. But that was one of the things that I did was I took Workflow and I extended a tool with it. So like the tool was, hey, go and add, I don't know, whatever, something to something. And it did like a 4-step process, and it orchestrated it all using a workflow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's still pretty nascent. So any feedback you have on it would be great.
Okay.
As to like your wants and all that. It's definitely not at the level of like an ingest or something like that that's got like a full infrastructure and all the fallbacks and all that.
I think we could probably call it here then and say to the people, look, if you're interested in some more fully owned AI workflows and orchestration for your app, check out TanStack AI. You can use code mode. You can use some of the best features that you guys have been looking at, the other harnesses, and bring them right in. And where would people go, Jack, to check this out? Is there a TanStack AI specific page?
Yep. There's tanstack.com/AI.
Easy to remember.
It's pretty easy to remember there. TanStack.com/AI. And of course, we don't have a service. We're not an API gateway or any of that. We are literally just a bunch of developers who work full-time jobs, not on TanStack. And then it's all sponsorship income that keeps the thing afloat. If you are at a company that uses TanStack extensively, tell your boss, hey, we should probably support this ecosystem because it's one of the very few remaining ones out there. And so if you want to see a long-term alternative to like Next.js, the AI SDK, like we're the folks that are bringing that to you.
So there you go. Like, yeah, that's a good thing to call out. And as a serial user of the TanStack, yeah, you should, because it is a dying space and you guys are still there.
Right. Was Astro got bought out, and just recently, Bun got bought. And then there was one more just the last couple of weeks got bought. Every time that happens, the news is like, and there's only 2 of these ones left.
Right.
And here's TanStack and whatever, there's one other. And you're like, yeah, okay, this is pretty crazy. I mean, I get it, but still, woof.
Jack, if people wanted to find you and hear you talk more, what's your handle? Where do you blog?
Sure. I'm at Jaher on GitHub and on X, but I mostly do stuff on YouTube. So go check me out on YouTube at Jaher. So Jherr. It's Jack Herrington. And I talk about all things full stack and applied AI. And it's called basically the blue collar coder because I'm not a college educated guy. I've just been doing this since I was a kid. And so my stuff is like making the customer happy. And if you're the kind of coder that wants to make customers happy, then watch my channel and I'll teach you some stuff.
Thank you, Jack, for coming on and sharing all about TanStack AI. Thanks again for your time, Jack. Until next time.
Thank you for having me.